Just a couple of things at the top, and then we'll get right at it. I want to start out with Russia-Ukraine. We're concerned by reports of new attacks by combined Russian separatist forces on Ukrainian positions in Marinka, Shirokino, and northeast of Mariupol, all on the Ukrainian government-controlled side of the ceasefire line. These attacks reportedly used heavy weapons that are prohibited by the Minsk agreements. Russia bears direct responsibility for these aggressive actions by combined Russian separatist forces, which are unacceptable and contravene those agreements. Any attempts to seize additional Ukrainian territory will be met with increased costs. Also, earlier today, and to do so as expeditiously as possible. Brad?
I just want to, unless there's more questions on Greece, I wanted to ask about the Russia component again. The attacks in Marinka, Shirokino, and there was somewhere else you mentioned.
Near Mariupol.
Right, near Mariupol. How serious do you qualify these to be? Do you see these as an enhancement of the type of daily infractions we've been witnessing?
I think what I would characterize it, Brad, as a continuation of the kinds of activities that we have seen. Again, I don't think that I'm in a position to qualitatively describe, these are real recent reports. We're still trying to gather more information about them, but it is certainly a continuation of the kind of support to Russian separatists that we've seen in the past. And again, more violations of international law in Ukrainian territory.
In the past several weeks, the State Department has been speaking about advanced training techniques, more and better equipment being brought toward the front. Are you seeing any of this equipment and new training being used on the battlefield?
Can't speak to the training, Brad, but as I said at the topper, we certainly have seen in connection with these aggressive acts that I just talked about, heavy weapons as a component of it. The same kinds of heavy weapons that we've seen in the past.
And then I just have a couple more, but they're quick. You mentioned that these were about combined Russian separatist forces. Do you believe Russian forces, Russian troops are part of the makeup of this force, of the forces that are attacking in these cities today?
Don't have an exact laydown of the separatist forces, but when I say combined separatists, obviously that connotes that there are some Russian force components to it, but it's hard to characterize exactly what that means and how many there are. We just don't have a good sense of it. But we've said all along, Brad, that we know because of the kinds of equipment that's being used to support these actions, that it requires a certain level of institutional support, whether it's in the form of training or command and control or ISR support. So we know that there is some conventional support being applied to this effort. It's hard for me to go into much more detail than that.
I have one final one. There's been threats or let's say suggestions, veiled and pretty open, about additional sanctions if the violence continues and expands. Do you see this type of violence that we witnessed today as the type of violence that would warrant an additional response, or is this still below the bar for kind of new and tougher measures against Russia?
I wouldn't get ahead of decisions about additional sanctions that haven't been made yet. So I don't really have anything to announce in that regard or to hypothesize. It is a continuation of the kind of aggression that we've seen. We've continued to say that Russia will continue to bear a cost for this. As I said to Elise's question, the European community remains united not only about continuing the existing sanctions, but considering future ones. Really, the ball is in President Putin's court here. He's the one who has the choice to do the right thing, not just the international legally thing, but the right thing for his own people and for the people of Ukraine.
Can I just follow up on the sanctions?
Sure, Joe. Let me get to Joe.
On the sanctions, the EU actually is signalling that they're going to roll over the sanctions until January 1st of next year.
Right.
Is this the right move? What would be the US reaction to this? And on the back of that, since we've seen lockstep actions between the US and the EU in the past, is there anything that you can foresee coming on the US side?
Welcome the decision by EU to roll over these sanctions. Don't have anything to announce on the US side specifically.
Just to follow up on that, is there, since these actions that we've seen on the Russian side have not abated despite the sanctions regime that's in place, is there not an argument to toughen and tighten the sanctions and move on to a different level?
Well, I think, you know, again, they talked about this at the G7, the importance, the role that sanctions have played, the effect that they're having on the Russian economy, the fact that they should be continued. Now we've seen this rollover announcement, and then the agreement to be able to consider potential for future sanctions. I'm certainly in no position here today to make a judgment either for this country or others about whether and when additional sanctions will be applied. But as I said at the opening, you know, Russia will continue to pay a cost for its violation of international law, territorial integrity of Ukraine, and of course the Minsk agreement. But I'm just not in a position now to speculate about what those additional costs would be, when they would be enacted, or through what form. Back here?
John, today...
Yeah, back here. Let me get back here. I'll come back to you.